Okay, so let me ask you this. How do you spot a vampire in, like an energy vampire in yourself? Like, I think I have a pretty good idea of how you do it in other people, but we both know after, talking about this for a long time that it's very clear that everyone has vampires
Yeah.
externally and internally. So, do you have any tips for spotting them in yourself?
Yes, I sure do.
Hit me. Hit me.
So the overarching way is that you if you pay attention, you know. Okay. So it's that feeling of I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel right. I'm irritated. I want to go tell somebody that I'm mad, or I'd like to do something that kind of jabs the other person, or I feel like I need to withdraw. So any of the fight, flight, or freeze stuff, there's a vampire present. Which basically, like if you think of it in it, you kind of go, well, that was for evolutionary purposes. Yeah, because there was a vampire, there was someone going to steal your energy, literally going to kill you like a big animal, and you have to respond, right? It's all the same thing, except that now the things that you're fight, flight, or freezing about are emotional or, they're
Psychological, yeah.
psychological. They're not, the threats aren't that you're going to die necessarily. But sure, this all the same thing. So in me, if I'm being an energy vampire, I fight, flight, or freeze, or if I tell myself the truth, I want to win at this person or at this situation, and something doesn't feel right. I feel a little crappy. I don't like it's easier to see in contrast to feeling grounded. So if you can think of it of what it feels like to be grounded, to be either by yourself sitting somewhere going, oh, nothing is wrong and I feel really myself. I feel like I could take on the world. Or you're sitting with one of your favorite people and you're going, man, this is such a good conversation. I just feel so connected with this person. That's the opposite. So then if you're with someone, you're going, we just are missing each, and what you're saying is pissing me off, or I feel defensive, I feel attacked, or anything where you're not feeling grounded and oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Odds are there's a vampire present
In yourself
in
or
myself, in
both.
myself, in myself. So vampire calls vampire. So when someone else is being an energy vampire, until or unless you can really separate yourself from that kind of energy and how we react to it naturally. When you see a vampire, you've probably got a vampire, right? Because if someone is standing up and doing whatever that feels like an invasion, you're you will automatically call up your defenses against that, right? So that's another way. If you think there is a vampire, you can look and there's going to be one in you too. Almost guaranteed.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that if you're feeling quote unquote triggered by somebody else or somebody else's vampire, that the triggered feeling is literally your internal vampire?
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that interferes, so how you can tell, like it is possible to be in, very possible to be in the presence of a vampire and not be triggered, not have a vampire.
Hmm.
And what that feels like is that's interesting. I can see that that person's spinning or trying to manipulate or whatever, but you can look at it like it's a TV show where you go, wow, that's really kind of curious.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And-
they're not available for conversation.
yeah. And so it's possible to do that when the, you can do that when their energy vampire is pointed at you. Ideally, that takes, a lifetime of work
Yeah.
or, catching you on a good
Or it
date.
has to be something that just sorry to interrupt, but there are lots of energy vampires that people have that do not trigger me because I've never been, that's not a threat to me. It doesn't feel like a threat. It doesn't bother me. And I just look, and everybody has those too, right? People where they kind of look and go, okay, whatever. That's weird. But
Hmm.
because it doesn't, because I don't have a wound in me or a fear in me that connects with what theirs is, I got no problem. And it's, which is why it's so frustrating at times because I will say to you, this person is really getting on my last nerve. They're this. And you go, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
What do you mean it doesn't bother you? This is awful. No, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. To finish the thought, so if someone's being an energy vampire on you, you can still notice it, not get triggered in an ideal state, but you're also saying that if somebody you can notice when somebody else has their own kind of internal vampire on themselves. So like cocktail parties I always come back to
Oh,
because this
yes.
stuff is like massively on display and there's all sorts of interactions and so you can see people in those settings very pronounced that are like spiraling,
In battle with themselves.
fight,
Yeah.
flight, freeze, and like everyone's in battle with themselves in those situations. So that's interesting to think about. The other thing I wanted to ask you is that so when I
Wait,
walk
wait,
into oh
before we
yeah.
move on, I just want to just highlight that because that's important. My vampires can be ones that head out into the world, and they can also be ones that turn in on myself, right? I can be, yeah, I can have a vampire that's draining me that's my own internal vampire and nothing to do with anybody else.
Is it fair to use vampire and ego interchangeably in your view?
I don't care for ego because of my definition of ego, my understanding of ego. So ego to me is a specific form of vampire.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's true for everybody. That's just for me. Because ego is when I want to shine, when I want to be cock of the walk, right?
Hmm.
And so that's a very and I have that for sure, but that is a very specific form of like a stupid example that pops to mind. So I say something at a meeting and someone goes, "That's a brilliant thought." And I like that feeling. Ooh, that strokes my ego. So then I want to talk more about that. I want to say my idea
Yeah.
again because I want to get that boost again. That's ego, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody says, let's see if this works. If somebody says, that was a stupid idea of something I've said, I will spiral. My vampire will probably turn in on me and go, yeah, he's right. That was a stupid thing to say. Why do you speak up at meetings? Rah, rah, rah.
Hmm.
That is not ego. In how I think of ego, that's not ego. That's insecurity of a different form.
Okay. That's exactly what I was just going to ask you when because ego, the default view is, yeah, massive bravado and like,
Yeah,
puff your chest. Whereas ego can also be, I guess, in my view, getting hurt or feeling insecure is like
right.
my ego got damaged. But either way, I think I like the distinction because ego is, it's a very loaded term and like people
Yeah,
have different views of it. So the whole energy vampire thing, yeah. And I like vampire because when you're talking about like being grounded, right?
yeah.
I think I've said this to you before, and it's kind of a weird visualization, but I kind of see like two versions of yourself, right? Like your grounded self is always there, and then
Hmm.
your other self, when you're, quote unquote centered or grounded, it's kind of like literally in alignment, like that
Yes,
silhouette, those two silhouettes
yes.
are in alignment. And then when I feel myself veering off course, like my thing is freeze at cocktail parties, I'll freeze a lot of the times. And when things aren't in alignment, I see like the silhouette literally getting
Right.
off
Yeah.
course
Just
and of
yes. Like
alignment.
if I could, yeah, exactly.
So
It's
I'm
like
like
the
trying
backup
to,
camera when you've got the backup camera and you're
yeah,
backing up the driveway and it's going, well, this is you should be here, but you're over here.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah. How to make
And
it straight
so,
again.
and that's why we don't have to go down this rabbit hole, but that's the value I get in like meditation or just sitting without distraction is because it's like, you can't force the realignment. It's got to like
No,
come
but you
back.
can find it. You can't force it, but you can find it. When you know
Right.
what it feels like, you can find your way back.
Right. And so when I'm sitting there like meditating or just like taking intentional time to gather my thoughts, like I can feel that come back to place and then I'm like, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the right space to
Yeah.
be in. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and that's exactly why I like the term of energy. Like all of this stuff is also you could call it insecurity, right? It's all based on if you're feeling secure, you're grounded, and if you're feeling insecure, something, one of these things
Yeah.
will be present. But I like the word energy because it brings you in, like all of this stuff is readings inside your body, right? It's almost like it's a different sense. So you've got, sense of smell, sight, whatever. There is a sense in your body that's an actual sense. It's not airy fairy that like you get gut aches, you get tension in your chest, your throat constricts. There are messages that your body gives you about how you're feeling that if you're paying attention to them will report back. So it to me that if you say energy, then what you're saying is it's different from hearing or eyesight or thinking. It's very different from thinking.
Yeah.
And not only can I feel it within my own body, I can read it. We all read it in everybody around us. And the reason I like vampires, so I like the energy for that. And I don't know if energy is right. It's not like electric energy, but I like it because it's different. And then I like the vampire because it feels very important to me to connect this up with aggression, with competition, with stuff that we want to gently heal, with things that are destructive as opposed to stuff that collaborates and helps everybody grow.
The word that I was thinking about as you're describing reading your internal is interoception.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think
which is
that's
a
like
new
a,
word to me.
yeah, and that they talk about the it's being talked about more now, but they scientists talk about that as a actual sense, right? Like validating exactly
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, and so you have to have some kind of language. Like so everybody has this and everybody does this, but not everybody is aware, or to people are aware at varying levels as about this. And so you need the language.
Yeah. I've heard people, psychiatrists call it the sixth sense, right? It's like the sense,
See, and that again, then I kind of go, yeah, but there was a movie about that and it was about dead people and there were like
right?
there a
Loaded. It's
lot of this
loaded. Yeah.
stuff, yeah, it's loaded. A lot of this stuff veers into magic pixie fairy dust stuff, and people will tune it out because they're like, it's not scientific, it's not real.
Right.
And science has been like people are now have caught on to this and they're now saying, oh, it's science. This magic pill will do blah blah blah. It's science. It's proven.
hmm
Meanwhile,
hmm
it's not science. It isn't proven. And so there is a chance to be biased against this information because it gets co-opted by
Yeah.
magic pixie fairy dust people.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Either way, helpful.
Either way.
Different words, whatever works. I
Yeah.
was also going to ask you before I forget. So you're saying like, and I went to a cocktail party, whatever, somewhat recently for holidays, like Latin during Christmas.
Yeah.
And so you're saying in those settings, like when I walk in, I undoubtedly like I don't think there's ever been a cocktail party where I've never felt like I haven't felt
Yeah. Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So you're actually saying that that is an energy vampire, right? Despite if it's fight, flight, or freeze, when you're in those uncomfortable settings and you feel, off center or whatever you want to call it, are you saying that's an energy vampire? Because when I think energy
No.
vampire, I think like, okay, okay. So,
No, it's subtle. It is a situation fraught with the possibility of energy vampires.
okay.
But being nervous is a real feeling, right? It's a grounded feeling. Being unsure, being like, in fact, it's very respectful, grounded feeling because if you're trying to have a conversation with someone you don't know at a cocktail party, the most effective way is to be in your authentic self, and your authentic self might be nervous,
Yeah.
right? But where the vampire comes in is I'm nervous and I'm now coming to talk to you and I say, "Oh no, I'm fine. I do this and this for a living." Like
Yeah.
it's the defense that rises up to protect the vulnerability of me being nervous
Mm,
around you.
good
That's
distinction.
the vampire.
Good distinction. Yeah.
I also want to say because we're into actually quite we do this because we've been doing it for so long. I think we get quite deep quite fast. For somebody who has not tried to identify vampires, one of the things I would like to say is it's slippery when you start because it is attached to ego and it is attached to shame and it is like so I don't want to admit that I have certain vampires.
Mm.
I have them, I use them, they show up, but I don't want to say so because if I say so, I feel shame because I feel like it's a bad thing that I have this vampire.
May I ask for an example?
Okay, I'll just use a simple one again of I'm at a meeting, I say something clever, someone says that's clever, and now I'm in the, ooh, I'd like more of that food, please. So I'm trying to say clever things. There is a piece of me. I can say that because I can tell you that because it's kind of removed. It's not that big a deal, and it's pretty common. It mostly doesn't happen anymore. I've kind of sorted that one out. But oh, here, this is a better one. Okay, there is no, it's not. Never mind. If I was closer to it, if I was that was still live in me, I know that it's embarrassing to be the kind of person that goes, "Ooh, tell me more about how I'm clever."
hmm
That has another message that says you're a loser. If you're the kind of person that shows up at a meeting and goes, "Oh, I'm even cleverer here," and does that, like
Mhm.
I'm even doing it in my dad, like, "Ew, I'm such a clever person."
Yeah.
There's a whole image around that that's embarrassing
And
to me. So
screams. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and screams insecurity, whatever. But
Yeah.
so I don't want to say I have that. I don't maybe even want to say to myself I have that, because if I say it, that means I'm a loser. That means that's really embarrassing. Like, who does
Hmm.
that? Right. And so there's a lot of charge around these things. So it's almost like there's layers. We have our defenses, our vampires that get up to fight the world because it's not safe. We learned this as kids, right? It's not
Right.
safe. So I'm going to put a barrier up to fight you. And then we also have our internal vampires going, "You're a big fat loser for doing that. You're an idiot.
Hmm.
Nobody else has to do that. Look at you. You're standing at that party and you're all shy and standing in the corner and you're frozen and you can't even talk to anybody. You're such a loser." Right? That's an internal vampire coming in on this vampire and
Yeah.
inside you.
Yeah.
Right? So you're much more likely to be willing to recognize that you have this voice saying you're a loser, but very much less willing to say, "I'm scared."
Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. So it's like it's like way more complex than it sounds in a sense because yeah, conceptually it's easy to accept and understand or accept that other people have vampires, you have vampires, but then you don't want to there's a skill set and practice to identifying them in other people and then also identifying them in yourself. But in order to identify them in yourself, you have to, there has to be some like some objectiveness and some hard truths to accept and be open to about about yourself. It's not just
Yes. And I want to say, and there's another piece to it. There's so many pieces to this, but you're not going to get there by being tough.
mm,
The only way you're actually going to get to these hard truths is through compassion, right?
yeah,
You're the only way you're ever going to be able to take a real look at your own internal vampires and help them to resolve is through immense tenderness, right? Because these are, and we'll talk about this later, but they basically, these things are developed because I'm a little kid, I'm a baby, or I'm a 2 year old, or I'm whatever, and the world has imposed upon me something that is beyond my scope and that hurts, and I find a way to defend myself. I find a way to, and it's some combination of, I mean, it'll be stuff I've learned. So if I watch my parents with their wounds and I see how they respond, I pick up those, or I pick up the opposite. And then there's the other, I get a little older, realize that people criticize me for that, begin criticizing myself before anyone else can criticize me so that I feel safer that way. So there's all these layers, but in order to peel back the layers and resolve, safe myself, get rid of the reasons for the damage and take care of myself, I have to be incredibly compassionate and gentle. And so that's another thing that people do. So to go back to the beginning, the first step is just to be able to go, "Oh, that's a vampire in somebody else." And the
hmm
easiest way to do that is to find one that's dramatic.
mm,
And everybody knows somebody with dramatic vampires. So you can get a toehold in there. With yourself, to get a toehold into beginning to understand what the vampires are inside yourself, it's maybe it's how do I feel when I see that? How do I want to respond? But it's just find something, just find whatever is available as you go, "Oh, I bet you that's a vampire." And it might be one that you don't particularly care about.
right.
Like I have one that I haven't wanted to remove because it's delicious and I don't know that it does any harm. I love to watch Real Housewives shows. And I love to
Just
watch
kidding.
them because I can be so superior, right? And I can be so, come on. How do how could you be that? Like I could do all of the outrage. Outrage is my favorite, right? I can do all of that. And if I stretch it all the way out to infinity, I absolutely can see the damage in the universe, but it's so delicious. It's like
Yeah.
candy.
Yeah. And you're not hurting anyone, right? Like
Well,
you're
I am in the big picture, but I am not in my,
in the big
you know,
picture. Yeah, I see.
right? Because if I didn't, if we all healed from this, those shows wouldn't come about. And honestly, I don't think it's healthy for the people that are on those shows,
Right.
most of them.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And it so it's almost like a lot of things. even just being aware of it is helpful. You don't
Is
necessarily need to
huge.
fix it or worry, stress about fixing it and trying to,
No,
optimize for
that's
perfection.
right. That's
It's
right.
just clarity.
Just clarity. And one of my favorite expressions is you can't unring a bell. And what happens is you just see it a little bit in someone else. You go, oh, that's what that is. And then you just find a little bit in yourself and you go, oh, that's what that is. And then it starts to unravel.
Mm.
You will see it more. You will see it more in yourself. You will, I mean, you may end up getting stuck and go, okay, well, I don't know. How do I fix this though? Because I see it, but now I don't know what to do about it. And then you have to come back and figure out, okay, well, what's the next step in this process? It's
Yeah.
like I went through it with a really good friend. She was super motivated to figure out what I was talking about. And I think it was a couple of years of talking and talking and talking and talking, and her saying, am I at my master's program yet? Because I feel like I've been working on this forever, right? She's got a PhD now. Yeah, she's aced it,
Yeah.
but it takes time. It's not, you can't, it's a course. It's not a 1 day workshop.
Yeah. I still massively struggle with identifying them in myself, right? Like, because
Hmm.
I think I'm pretty good at seeing them in other people, especially when they're super overt. But yeah, you've had to remind me many times. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, that's what, that is the thing. I'm doing that thing again. And I'm
Hmm.
completely lost down I have a select few rabbit holes that continue to
Yeah,
pull me back.
yeah.
And yeah,
As do we all.
yeah. And so like I wonder if I suspect it's a spectrum like most things, right? You can get better at it, but there'll probably always be blind spots, especially when they're your own rabbit holes, your specific insecurities or doubts or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because just because I know what it is doesn't mean I can stop it.
Yeah.
Right? So I may be faster and faster at going, oh, stop. We got to go regroup. I can feel myself going down this rabbit hole that I've been down 1,000 times before. So I know I don't want to go down there. Nothing good happens there. But I still have to go away, regroup, talk to people, rant, maybe. Like I have to
Yeah.
do a bunch of stuff and then I can bring myself back to grounded. So that isn't resolved though, right?
Hmm.
It's just we can develop so there's that there's finding ways to not puke it on other people
Hmm.
and to get back to grounded, but then there's also how do you resolve them, like how do you actually make them disappear, and that's a whole other step. And I don't know if I don't know, I'm certainly not, I don't have them all gone. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody does.
Yeah, the worst ones for me are when I'm already as far down the rabbit hole as I possibly can be,
Yeah,
and then I still at that point don't know what's happening.
and that's why you have friends, right? That's
Yeah.
why you talk to other people that speak the language,
Yeah.
because there's absolutely times when you can't see it. Like you're guessing you're down a rabbit hole. I mean, it's dark down here, so you're pretty sure that you're not where you're supposed to be, but I don't know what to do about it, and I don't know where I am, and I can't get back. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but speaking to somebody who also has this language, you can say, okay, describe where you are. Okay,
Yeah.
what do we know about this place? And then just, it's like a guide saying, okay, I'm calling from over here. Can you hear me over here? And you can sort of wind your way back out. And then once you get back to the grounded place, you can look and go, oh, I see where I was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to go there again. How
I
did I
just
get there?
I just need yeah, it's helpful when someone more or less is like you're watching a movie. And
Right.
what I mean by that is, when there's a very big difference between when you're watching a movie you're immersed in and consume, like you're really
Hmm.
into it. You forget
Hmm.
there's a TV, you forget you're sitting on a couch, you forget the plant to the left. But when
Yeah.
you're not into it, you see everything. You see the plant, you see the
Right.
TV, you're on the couch, you're not really comfortable. You can see the movie playing on the screen, but when you're down that rabbit hole, when you're fully immersed in it for better or worse, you're just in that movie. You don't see anything around it. And so
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry,
go
I,
ahead.
I I was going to say, okay. And the interesting thing about that is that's absolutely true for when you're in a vampire mode. It's also absolutely true when you're in the
A flow
flow,
state. Yeah,
flow
100%.
state, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So anyways, I think that's helpful.